Hi, welcome to week 7, part 2, and the focus here is on PLCs. So I know that we all know what PLCs are and probably the purpose of them through experience or people discussing them. Within this lecture, we will particularly talk about the impact that PLCs can have on student progress and learning, and also the importance that a PLC has within ensuring that you as an educator are meeting the requirements of your performance evaluation. Three things we'll do. We will review this week's readings briefly, as we usually do, explore critical points to include in the PLCs that you can consider for next year and reshaping the one that you have if you have one, and if not, these can guide the development of one that you can create with a group of teachers or even parents that are interested in improving their students' learning. And then the last thing we'll do is review examples of PLC structures in other schools. So there are two videos that I've added at the end of this lecture to ensure that you have some examples. One is a debrief and the other one kind of explains PLCs and how they see it within their school and then how it's being used. The readings for this week include 3 of them. Did you know your school's PLCs have a major impact by Lindsay Devers Asilio? And then how PLC impact student success by K through 12 blueprint. And then the last one, or the first one you'll read, what is a professional learning community? So let's just get started. So we all know to a certain extent what our professional learning community is, but I want to make sure you understand that professional learning communities can include any group of parties. So any group of people that would like to improve student learning. This group can range from teachers that arrange themselves or arrange with other folks to include education coaches, administrators, or other stakeholders. There can be a combination of folks together. Usually there are coaches, administrators, teachers, even parents. Sometimes join professional learning communities, but there can be other people who have a genuine interest and who have been given permission to give their feedback and be a part of the process of improving student learning. But there are 3 core things that you need to ensure are part of your professional communities. 3 things that are kind of like the big ideas. So big idea number 1, ensuring that students learn. Big idea number 2, a culture of collaboration. And then big idea number 3, a focus on results. All right, so the first reading, that was the first reading there. Before we go there, you're probably wondering, why are we even discussing PLCs? Last week we were talking about goal alignment and your process of tracking your own goals, and also your review within your lesson plans. But the reason why we are is because this is a part of your evaluation performance rating. So your performance evaluation, it's 15% of your actual job, meaning that 15% of your job falls in your professional responsibilities. That goal means that you are engaging every stakeholder or all stakeholders in a continuous improvement and monitoring of a professional growth system. So it alludes to the idea that you already have a system in place and that you're monitoring it throughout the year. Now, realistically, if someone doesn't have a PLC, they're probably not collaboratively getting together with other teachers systematically and tracking what's being done. They may have, casual conversations, but PLCs are different in the fact that they are systematically tracking the progress to the completion of the year, and they are collaboratively creating and redesigning what teaching looks like based on the data that comes out. So when the PLC gets together, they're sharing data, they're sharing results, and then they're discussing openly, well, what have you tried? What can I do? There may be observations done in the classroom to give pointers and feedback. There's so many different things happening at the same time that the point is for them to work together to form a better outcome for the student. So there are 4 things that this standard addresses: manages human capital, self-reflection and professional growth, professional obligations, and then family community engagement. So the PLCs can really save you at least a lot of stress within all these areas, because if you include parents, if you include other community stakeholders in this process, they're involved and they're part of you evaluating your practices and self-reflection process, which should guide what comes out of the PLCs or what goes into the PLCs when you contribute to ensure that students are learning. So the first Major impacts of POCs. And let me just bring over the readings really quickly so you see them. So here's the first one. What is a professional learning community? The next one is how POC impacts student success. And then here's the last one. Did you know your school's POCs have a major impact? So, which I believe that they do when they are done well. So this is the reading that we're going over now. High-functioning POCs are laboratories for generating what social scientists call human capital and social capital. Strong social capital is characterized by high trust and frequent interaction. Lena and her colleagues found a significant correlation between student learning growth and social environments where positive teacher collaborations flourish. If a teacher's social capital was just one standard deviation higher than average, her students' math scores increased by 5.7%. So what that's saying to you is there is a huge benefit in collaborating with your colleagues to look at the data, to explore ways of improving how students perform in any given content area, because through that collaboration you learn and you improve your performance as an educator. You improve your teaching approaches, your way of looking at data, maybe interpreting different behaviors of students, and you focus more on the process of getting them to where they need to go. In addition to the impact, one of the article here discussed the boost in teacher morale, which I think is important to consider, because teacher morale is important. It has a lot to do with how, and this is the page that we're on, just in case you were wondering, has a couple of charts that I didn't go into detail with, but you will go into detail with as you've completed the reading. But teacher morale is a huge deal, because if teachers don't feel comfortable to be themselves, or if they don't feel connected and bonded in the efforts to ensure that students are learning, then you have a different experience. So the question was posed, and they did a data collection that was it was a correlated analysis, meaning that they only looked at relational things in between factors that were being compared. So it says here, teacher morale was more highly correlated with a focus on work to improve student learning rather than with discussions of student behavior, building issues, or organizational activities. So none of the lunchroom cafeteria talk, which I try to avoid because sometimes hearing about all the problems that teachers have is a little bit stressful, but I do understand the value in having some place to vent. I just don't think venting is the only thing that can be done. That's why POCs can be really powerful, because they give you a different way of looking at the same problem or the same challenge. So data collected by Learning Sciences International indicate that when POCs collaborate on student work and achievement data, teachers are more likely to be satisfied and therefore effective. So you become more effective and you become more satisfied in the fact that you think you can make a difference, that you think that you have a team with you that are out there with you trying to make the same difference. And that's what really shapes things and changes the mindset, changes the perspective. I always believe that as a teacher, you set the environment in your classroom. So if you come in with a positive outlook that you may have gotten from a POC that you went to that Friday, your colleagues are cheering you on, you're sharing your best practices, they're also sharing what they're doing, you're seeing the data and you see the changes happening, that can be remarkable and boosting your morale and also boosting your confidence as an educator and knowing that you're doing something that's moving your students forward. The other thing that they say here is that how POCs can impact student success. So I know a lot of people have debated over the last decade or so, POCs are nothing new, what is the impact? And I do believe that there's impact if it's ran correctly. I think oftentimes we give the name to a POC when we're really not using a POC, it's just a venting session. But realistically, if we are systematically using a particular model to impact student growth, called a POC, then it should be systematic and you should be able to see the growth over a period of time through that data, because you're bringing data to the table aligned with your effective practices. So say, for example, with this course is your gold mine because you've already set up your system. You have your strategy for tracking students' performance in class. You have your alignment to your professional learning growth plan. And then from that professional learning growth plan, you will create a system for tracking the whole year. Bam, now you get to your POC. You have all of these things put in place. So when you come to the table, you come with your data that's aligned to the practices, to the way you're tracking the students' growth, and to also how you're trying to achieve your own professional learning growth goals. All this stuff tracks the whole year. All this stuff tracks the end goal, which is to improve student learning. And you'll have data to show what you are trying and what's not effective. And as you go back and you regroup and then you restructure, you have the evidence that you need to know what you need to do. So here it says the POC model gives schools a framework to form high-performing collaborative efforts with teachers that are all united toward the improvement of student learning, just like I just said. And POC's teachers work together by writing common assessments, planning curriculum, identifying at-risk students, and problem solving to intervene for each student. This is a lot of what RTI does. I was trained as an RTI support in my school, and the key thing is that you're creating stuff together. You're not just, even if you're from different content areas, you can merge assessments into classroom assessments into content specific areas and then branch them out to specifics. But you should be able to problem solve to intervene for each student. And that's the purpose of the data and the systematic tracking system that you should have in place. There are three crucial questions that drive the POC model, and they include: what do we want students to learn? How will we know if students have learned it? And then what do we do if students do not learn it? So that's the purpose of the POC and the collaborative effort, because you get those solutions through your team and through the evaluation of the data collected over time. So this kind of wraps up this lecture. 12 minutes. I'm doing okay, getting better. Final thoughts include 2 videos. Please take a look at them. The first one explores definitions and experiences within POCs, and then the second one explores experiences within a POC within a debrief meeting. And the way you get to the URL of the video is very easy. You just click on it and then you hold your mouse there and copy video URL if you don't view it through the actual PowerPoint. Okay, well, that wraps up this week. Again, make sure you keep a close eye out on the aspects that you need to include within the final project. Check in, and I hope that you can complete a well done draft so that I can give you very thorough feedback. I will be grading tonight and tomorrow, or tonight and Sunday, to finish up the midterms and then upload them all to you. If you have any questions about your score, please let me know. I know we're kind of getting close to time, but don't worry, I have at least 2 days before grades are due to do any final adjustments or edits. Hope you're having a great summer, and I hope you enjoy this week's content.